A lot of independent artists are busy all the time, posting content, planning releases, watching tutorials, tweaking profiles, running ideas past friends. There's always something to work on, and on the surface, it looks like progress. But being busy doesn't automatically mean you're moving forward. That's one of the most confusing parts of building independently. You can be working non-stop and still feel stuck. Still feel unsure. Still feel like the gap between effort and results isn't closing. Same numbers, same income, same questions. That's not because you're lazy, and it's not because you're doing nothing. It's because activity without direction doesn't create momentum. A lot of artists confuse motion with progress because motion is visible. You can post it, you can screenshot it, you can point to it and say, "I'm putting in the work." Progress is quieter. It happens in decisions people don't see, in things you stop doing, in clarity you build before results show up. That's why the busy phase is dangerous. It gives you the feeling of movement without the reward of advancement. So when things don't change, frustration sets in. You start questioning your strategy, your talent, your timeline. But most of the time, the problem isn't effort, it's alignment. This episode is about recognizing when being busy is actually keeping you stuck, and how to shift from constant activity into intentional momentum. Because once your moves connect, effort finally starts to feel like it's going somewhere. Motion feels productive because something is always happening. You're posting, you're adjusting captions, you're trying new ideas, you're staying active. From the outside, it looks like progress. But momentum works differently. Momentum happens when actions connect, when one move supports the next, when effort builds instead of resetting, when today's work makes tomorrow's work easier. A lot of independent artists stay in motion because slowing down feels risky. Slowing down forces reflection. Reflection forces honesty. You have to ask the uncomfortable questions. What is this actually leading to? Who is this for? What happens after someone engages? Without clear answers, motion becomes circular. You do things because they feel necessary, not because they're effective. That's how artists end up exhausted but unchanged. Momentum requires intention. It means choosing a direction and letting that direction guide decisions. Not every idea deserves action. Not every opportunity deserves attention. Not every task deserves energy. Momentum is created when you focus on what matters most right now. That often means doing less, not more. Less posting, less chasing, less reacting, but more clarity, more alignment, more purpose behind each move. Once momentum starts building, effort feels lighter. You're not constantly starting over. You're continuing. And that's the difference between being busy and actually moving forward. Burnout doesn't usually come from laziness. It comes from overactivity without direction. A lot of independent artists are exhausted not because they aren't capable, but because they're carrying too much at once. They feel pressure to be everywhere, pressure to post constantly, pressure to keep up with trends that don't even fit their sound or situation. So instead of refining their approach, they add more content ideas, more platforms, more strategies. At first, that feels productive. But without clarity, overactivity turns into overload. Everything feels urgent, everything feels important, and nothing feels optional. That constant urgency drains energy fast. Burnout shows up quietly. You lose enthusiasm. You avoid tasks you used to enjoy. You start questioning whether it's worth it. Not because you don't care, but because you're stretched too thin. What most artists don't realize is that burnout isn't solved by rest alone. Rest helps, but clarity prevents it. When you know what actually matters in your current stage, pressure decreases. You stop reacting to every opportunity. You stop comparing your output to other people's timelines. You stop feeling like you're always behind. Aligned effort energizes, misaligned effort depletes. Burnout is often a signal, not to quit, but to simplify, to remove what isn't serving the direction, to focus on fewer things with more intention. That shift doesn't make the work easier, it makes it sustainable. And sustainability is what allows momentum to build instead of constantly breaking down. Clarity is what turns effort into leverage. When you're clear about what you're building right now, decisions get lighter. You stop second-guessing every move. You stop reacting to everything you see. You stop feeling pulled in 10 different directions. Instead of asking, "Should I do this?" you start asking, "Does this support where I'm trying to go?" That one shift eliminates a lot of wasted energy. Without clarity, everything feels important. Every idea feels urgent. Every opportunity feels like something you can't afford to miss. That's how artists stay busy but unfocused. Clarity gives you permission to ignore things that don't serve your current stage. Not forever, just for now. And that's where leverage comes from. Leverage isn't about doing more than everyone else. It's about doing fewer things with purpose. When your actions are aligned, effort compounds. Each move supports the next. Each release builds on the last. Each decision feels intentional instead of reactive. Clarity also protects you from comparison. When you know your lane, other people's paths stop distracting you. You don't feel pressure to copy strategies that don't fit your situation. You don't chase outcomes that don't align with your goals. You stay focused on what matters for you. That focus creates leverage over time. Because clarity doesn't just simplify your workload, it strengthens your direction. And strong direction is what turns consistent effort into real progress. This is something I've had to confront personally. There were long stretches where I stayed busy because it felt safer than slowing down. As long as I was doing something, it felt like progress, even when nothing was actually changing. I filled my time with tasks that looked productive. Posting often, planning constantly, adjusting things that didn't really need adjustment. What I wasn't doing was questioning direction, because questioning direction forces honesty, and honesty can be uncomfortable. I had to admit that some of the work I was doing wasn't aligned with where I wanted to go. It wasn't wrong. It just wasn't moving the needle. That realization changed how I approached everything. Instead of asking how much I could do, I started asking what actually mattered. Once I got clear on that, the pressure eased. I didn't feel like I had to keep up with everyone else. I didn't feel guilty for not doing everything. I felt focused. That focus created momentum. Progress stopped feeling random because my actions were connected. Each move supported the next. Each decision had a purpose. I also learned that clarity doesn't mean certainty. You don't have to have everything figured out to move intentionally. You just need to know what deserves your attention right now. That mindset shifted how I work. Less noise, less burnout, more direction. And that made the independent path feel less chaotic and more controlled. If Independent Artist Game is helping you think more clearly about your journey, the simplest way to support what we're building is to like the video, share it, and subscribe. And if you want to support beyond that, you can grab merch at southentmusic.com. Everything there helps keep this series independent, consistent, and focused on the long game. Now let's close this out. Being busy isn't the goal. Building momentum is. Independent artists who last learn how to tell the difference between activity and progress. They understand that effort only matters when it's connected to direction. Motion without clarity feels productive, but it doesn't compound. It drains energy instead of building leverage. Momentum works the opposite way. Momentum builds when your actions support each other. When each move has a reason. When today's work makes tomorrow's work clearer. That's why clarity matters more than intensity. You don't need to do everything. You don't need to be everywhere. You don't need to chase every opportunity. You need direction. When direction is clear, decisions get easier. You stop reacting. You stop overloading yourself. You stop mistaking noise for growth. Instead, you move intentionally. And intentional movement compounds. Small aligned actions done consistently create more progress than big efforts done randomly. That's how independence becomes sustainable. Not by grinding harder, not by staying busy, but by staying focused. If you feel stuck despite working hard, the answer usually isn't more work. It's better alignment. Once alignment is there, momentum follows naturally. And when momentum is real, progress stops feeling forced. That's the shift most independent artists never make. But once you do, everything changes. That's the work. That's the discipline. That's the game.